Alamar. We will start with RJ. Go ahead, RJ.
Hey, Coach. This time of year, I think everybody kind of is obsessed with guessing the depth chart for offense and defense, but I want to talk about your phase and how much of setting your starters and your depth chart is connected to the offense and defense sorting itself out.
It's a great question, RJ, and it is very, very tied to it in this respect. You always in the world of special teams, you're going to look at what is the role of each guy's on offense and defense. Like, we've got some great special teams players that in the past have been great ST players for us as they were younger and coming up. Curtis Robinson, I'll use as an example. This is a guy that was a 4-team starter for the early parts of his career, but now as you get into a point, you have to start balancing if that player's playing 50 or 60 snaps on offense and defense. Now you can't use them as much in the kicking game. We're going to manage that. And so you're looking at a guy like Curtis going from being a 4-team starter to a 1-team starter. And then it's like, how do you mesh those guys that can only start on a team or two for you with that core group of young guys of 5 or 6 guys that might be 3 and 4-team starters to give yourself the strongest total unit possible while still being mindful of what each player's role is on offense and defense. And those are conversations that we have as a staff and that I have with Coach Shaw and with Lance and Tavita, just to, hey, what is so-and-so's role going to be? Where is he at now? And that changes, and obviously, the depth at a position can change that too, right? Just through injury and stuff like that. So there's a lot of variables that go into just trying to mix and match that board and try to put together the best group of guys for each phase of the kicking game that we have.
And just to finish up with that, are there any young guys or even veteran guys who have gotten your attention in terms of their effort on the coverage or the return units at this point?
Yeah, we've got some guys last year that really that flashed. They're going to come back and have strong roles for us. Bryson Tremaine has been very, very good for us in the kicking game, and he will continue to be that way. Thunder Keck is a guy that shows up in that. Spencer Jorgensen was a guy that showed up last year, right? That ended up having a ton of opportunities to play, and we're anticipating getting good things out of him this year in the kicking game. Elijah Higgins is another guy that showed up a year ago and played a lot for us. Now his role, all these guys' roles are going to be ever evolving, but it'll continue to be, those guys will still, I think, have large roles in the kicking game. Houston Haimuli, showed up last year for us on multiple phases. I think by the end of the year, he was starting on all 4 phases. Now, part of that was just where we were at and who we had, healthy in those things. But he also did a great job and showed that he could do things and has been working really hard in camp. So really pleased with where he's at. You heard Lance talk about Lavani Damuni. I think, Lavani showed up late in the year for us as he got in shape coming off, his mission and stuff. He started to show up in the kicking game for us. Had a couple nice stops in the Notre Dame game on kickoff. Continuing to grow his role in special teams as well as on defense, right? And then some of the freshmen that are flashing early. Brandon Jones, young corner. The 2 of the receivers, John Humphreys, Silas Starr, both have done some really nice things in drill work, but have never done it in the game. Young Ben Urasic, the tight end. Urasic he's a really good athlete. And he's what we call a big skill athlete. So when we categorize body types in the kicking game, you have type 1, type 2, and type 3. And type 2 body types are those big skill guys that are just, they're not that, they're the quick twitch big skill guy. It's the big wide receiver like Elijah Higgins. It's young Urasic. It's Thunder Keck. It's some of those guys that can carry 230 plus, but run like they're 210, and those guys are hard to find, and he's flashed on some of those things. It'll be interesting just where his role grows this fall for us. Casey Filkins, he's a hard charger guy. I mean, he's a guy that goes hard, plays hard. So, all those guys, show up, and then it'd be interesting to see just what we what we can get out of, the young linebackers that that were injured with us a year ago, Toby Mara, Ricky Miezon, those players too, as we try to mesh them with what their defensive role will be and how they can still, supplement and start on a team or two for us on defense. On special teams.
Next, we'll go to Jacob Rayburn. Go ahead, Jacob.
I think I put Jacob to sleep with that last answer.
No. Jake forgot to hit unmute and
No
false
worries,
start.
Jake. No worries.
So, Coach, what's your impression so far of getting to work with Josh Carty?
I'll tell you what, Josh is. It sounds canned, but to say he's everything you thought he was going to be and more would be accurate. I had great. I really, when just going through the whole recruiting process and evaluation process, really felt like he had tremendous upside. Obviously, so did a lot of other people in America, right? But he is. He's come in and done a really nice job for us. And, he truly is everything. And I'll tell you what's been fun is we've made, we've worked together and made some things. And here's a guy that's had tremendous success and had a lot of people tell him how good he is, but has been very coachable and has really done a nice job of of just coming in and fitting in with the group, fitting in with the fellas. And Jet Toner's done a great job with him, and that was one of the advantages of having those two guys overlap. And we've been fortunate at the place kicker position to be able to do that. We had Jet, for a year overlap with Conrad, and now Josh was going to get the same opportunity with Jet, and to be able to grow and pull that experience from a guy that's done it for 4 or 5 years for you and talk to you about what his mental preparation is at this level and what are some of the things those are the areas that while Josh is tremendously, he's the most fundamentally sound freshman place kicker I've ever worked with, but all the little things that go into putting yourself out there and being great between the lines on game day, those little things has been really fun to watch him just really try to get as much as he can from everybody, whether it be myself or just talking to Jet about little things.
And I have a follow-up, and I apologize if Diego got mentioned in your previous answer. My audio cut out briefly, but I thought it was kind of interesting that, in response to how unfortunately ridiculous the injury situation got last year, that you guys had to get creative pretty much everywhere, that a walk-on receiver became a walk-on kicker.
Yeah. Diego's still with us. Diego still is. I'll tell you what, now you talk, that literally went into a situation where we went through the depth of the football team and literally hey, raise your hand if you've ever kicked. And, and it was he was one of 3 guys and that said it, and he had done it in high school and was able to come out and get up to speed. Now there was a couple other guys that said they thought they could that lasted. We had a quick tryout period during one practice, and when they hit me, when I'm 7 yards in front of the ball, if they hit me, they're not getting the ball up quite high enough, and that they're usually out of the mix pretty quick. And in all honesty, at the time that we called on Diego, that was absolutely critical for us. And, he answered the call and has been really, really good about working on that. And he continues to work at it now. He's actually, the last couple of days, he's had some pretty good days. He really has.
Thanks so much, Coach.
Yep.
Next, we'll go to Adam Rittenberg from ESPN. Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, Coach, I was wondering, in what you've observed around the country with special teams, what stood out? We've seen offenses seemingly having an advantage over defenses in a lot of leagues, but have you noticed any trends just from a special team standpoint that you guys can apply or try to avoid when you guys hit the field?
Well, yeah, I think the first thing you see, especially early on, is this. I think, and you've seen it in the NFL too, is I think early on you're going to see more punt pressure. because I think people are going to want to see where you're at, and knowing that you might have had a little bit different ramp up than what you normally would have had. I think that carries over to field goal block. As far as pressure, you've seen teams at times struggle to protect the block point on field goal. I know those are big emphasis. We're placing a big emphasis in those areas, both as a weapon to use against your opponent, obviously, but also with the understanding that that's what everybody else is going to do to you. So, those are things that really jump out at you. And then you see the missed open field tackles. I think, that's one of the biggest challenges is on punt and kickoff is, you've got a lot of real estate to cover, and you've got a few guys to put in that real estate. And, if whether it be for injury or just, trying to ramp up a football team and trying to be mindful of legs and those kinds of things, and just it's hard to create those open field tackle situations in practice, and so, experience obviously plays a role in that too with your coverage teams. But, that's going to be a big thing, is to be able to ramp that thing up and make sure that we do a great job in the open field, and that we tackling, but that we also better make sure, man, our protection units better be dialed in, because I think you're going to see pressure early to see just where you're at. And that's what.
And I asked Coach
film
Anderson.
said.
Oh, sorry. I asked Coach Anderson this similar, but I mean, in terms of scouting, how does that change for you going into, this year without having, seen these teams on tape or new return men or anything like that? How has that process changed for you?
Well, I think what you do is this. I think there's a couple ways to go about it. One is, and I think Lance alluded to this, about putting the onus back on yourself. And so what you do is this, make sure that we're not going in with something so complicated or so different that we don't have all the answers for it. A coach that I worked for a long time ago once told me, you need to make sure that that you can fix it on Saturday and not on Sunday. If you're fixing it on Sunday, you're too late. So my point being this, we'll do some things. We'll try to be very, what can we control? We can control our fundamentals and our abilities to execute our techniques correctly. And I need to put them in a position that's not going to ask them to, I'm not going to say that we're just going to dial down and do nothing. But the point is we're going to rely on our fundamentals and how we play, and not so much on looking for that magic that, I will tell you this, and I tell our people this: you block a punt, it's not always because you have this magic thing drawn up. The idea when you draw up a punt block is to stress a punt team into making a mistake. They all have answers, but you need to stress that there's stress points in every protection, and you need to stress those points. That's not going to change. And we have enough within our system to be able to, handle. Obviously, we're not going to get quite as many games. At the end of the year, last year, you're breaking down 11 games of your opponent, 10 games of your opponent. Now you're relying on last year, and you've got some new guys doing it, and you might only have a game or two on it. But if you build up your base and you try fundamentals and what you're doing, you'll be able to come up with a sound package every week.
Go back to RJ Abadia. Go ahead, RJ.
Yeah, just last two for me, Coach. Coach Anderson talked about wanting his defense to take a step up in terms of physicality and just the violence with which they play. I'm just curious, how did you evaluate your units, your coverage, your kick units, and in terms of those criteria, and where do you want to get better on those phases? Well,
here's what I would tell you is this. I think that, especially in the kicking game, I think you want to be a very physical football team, right? I mean, we've got 6 characteristics of a special teams player for us. And the first 3 are he plays fast, he plays physical, he plays with great effort. The 4th is he owns the technique of his job. The 5th is he has a passion to make a difference in the game. And number 6, he's unselfish. But if you take the first 3, fast, physical, and plays with great effort, that's what you're always looking for. You want to find you want to find 10 guys or 11 guys that are going to take the field, 10 plus your kicker / punter, slash returner that you've got going out there. They're literally, we talk about playing with our hair on fire and playing with emotion and playing physical. And so when you're looking for that for your defense, you're also looking for that in your kicking game, right? You want that there should be a playoff on each other on that. If I'm going to be physical here, I better be physical there, and where do we want to be? Where do we want to improve on? I'll tell you, we've got Ryan Sambore's coming back for a second year at punter. I think Ryan's going to have Ryan's continuing to go and grow. I'm excited to see him in this next year, this season and see where it goes. We had a punt blocked a year ago, and that doesn't happen around here very often. We need to make sure that doesn't happen again. And, so we're working hard on our punt protection. And that's a physical nature, right? I mean, you got to be a tough sucker in there. I thought kickoff cover, we've got two, we really got three guys that can kick the ball off, right? We've got Jet, who's back from, his deal. You've got young Josh Carty, and you got Ryan Sanborn, who did it a year ago when called into play. All three of those guys are Division I college kickoff guys. And I think we've got the biggest thing we want there is to develop some continuity with that unit. I think based on everything and the number of guys, at one time last year, we trotted out 10 freshmen or redshirt freshmen on that team.
At once.
Yeah, in a couple games. So when you're trotting that many guys out and playing with a lot of different guys, I was really kind of proud of that unit overall. We had one full paw one where, Caillou had to run a guy down at Wazoo that, you want to eliminate that one. But I think our longest return besides that one was 28 yards. And we had a lot of them that were less than that. And with a group of guys that were young, inexperienced, but very willing. And I look forward to seeing that group come back and being able to put together a group that's going to be, up to the standard that we hold, and we hold high standards for ourselves. So we need to be better there. Kickoff return. I thought Connor did a nice job. He had good numbers, but we had an opportunity to finish some. We didn't finish. Let's make the band play. Let's turn big returns into touchdown returns. But he did a nice job, and he's back, and we've got some other people that want a piece of that pie too. So that'll be kind of fun for us. Want to see our punt return game improve. That's one of the big areas for us. We just need to get more mileage out of every return. And, that's something we want. We got some points out of that unit with a block punt against UCLA. That was great. But I'd like, your main goal every time your returner fields a ball that he's not fair catching, you want him to get the first down. That's your minimum acceptable goal. Hey, let's go get the first down for the offense, right? Because our job is to create field position for the offense and defense. And the way we can do that, you punt a ball to us, we're going to get the first down. And we know that if we're getting that first down every time, sooner or later, pretty soon, what do you get? You're going to get an explosive. You're going to get that 30-yard return. You're going to get that 70-yard return. But going in, we need to do a better job of getting the first down and being consistent with that. So that's been a big thing for us in our coaching point, teaching points, talk points, to the players.
And just the last one really quickly. We talked to Jet a little bit about the process you guys have of heckling the kickers to kind of put some pressure on them. And he talked about tying it to conditioning activities. But, we've heard some pretty creative stuff about what the guys do to get in the kickers' heads. And I'm just wondering, when does the heckling start?
With our guys, when do we heckle our guys?
Yeah.
First of all, they know this. They're even when we're on the side, they're not going to catch a whole lot of breaks if they do something that's I'm going to try to put a squeeze on them. It actually starts in summer conditioning, because that's where they'll play. I mean, it's kick for conditioning type of situations and things like that. The other thing we'll do is, we'll make some noise around those guys and get in their head. Try to, we always look at other kickers too. I think it's important, like when you're playing an opponent, like one of the things I'm always looking at is if a kid consistently misses left, right? That's his miss point is a miss left. is if you had a game in the fourth quarter, I guarantee you that one of the guys in our field goal block team is going to say to that kid across the line of scrimmage, don't miss it left. Okay. Dallas Lloyd used to be great at that. Dallas used to always know what the deals were. And of course he was a holder for us too. So he'd seen it from both ends of the deal, but Dallas was a guy that was pretty good at having great timing. But there's some guys on this football team that they know how to heckle our guy, but they know I would not be surprised if occasionally something came out like that in a situation where pre-snap before that kid gets lined up, somebody says something like, don't miss it left.
Thank you, Coach.
Yep.
Thanks, Pete. Thanks everyone for joining. Appreciate the time today.
Yeah. Thanks guys. I appreciate you.
Thanks.